It began in silence. No bells, no trumpets, just the distant tremble of hooves and iron. A world already worn thin by centuries of war and prophecy stood on the edge of extinction. And then, like a whisper swallowed by wind, it happened. The gate cracked, the wall fell. The ancient city of Constantine, which had defied empires, plagues, and prophecy for more than 1,000 years, was gone. Not fading, not declining. Gone. In a single night, the heart of the Byzantine world was torn open, and what poured in would change everything. Some said it marked the end of an empire. Others whispered it was the end of the entire Middle Ages. But perhaps the real question was simpler. Was it ever truly a fall, or was it an execution? The echoes fade now. The dust settles. The clanging steel becomes a memory. You take a breath, long and quiet. Behind you, the streets of Constantinople glow in fading torchlight. Ahead lies a labyrinth of secrets, hidden betrayals, forgotten letters, vanished manuscripts, and ruins that speak. The night is long, but the truth is longer still. So slow your heartbeat. Let your shoulders drop. We're going back not to read history, but to investigate it. You're about to walk the marble corridors of a doomed empire, stand beside emperors who refused to flee, listen to popes who chose silence, and trace the cracks in the world's strongest wall. The truth behind Constantinople's fall is not what they taught you. It's older, stranger, and far more deliberate. Before we venture further into the shadows, take a moment to subscribe so you never miss a secret that history has tried to forget. You stand before stone, cold, layered, immovable. The Theodosian walls, they were called 3 rings of defense, built not just to repel enemies, but to send a message to the world this city would never fall. They were more than just architecture. They were legacy. Constantine had imagined a new Rome, but it was Theodosius who made it impenetrable. For over 1,000 years, they did their job. Avar's Persians, Rus Arabs, all had thrown themselves against these stones, and all had broken. Until 1453. Then suddenly, inexplicably, the unbreakable broke. The outer curtain stood 30 feet high. Beyond it, a terrace designed to slow attackers. Behind that, a second wall, and then the crown jewel, the inner wall, up to 40 feet tall and 12 feet thick, studded with towers every 50 paces. This wasn't just defense. It was theater, a message carved in limestone. But it wasn't just the design that made them last. It was the discipline. Byzantines maintained these walls like sacred scripture. Repairs were constant. Watch patrols never ceased. Siege drills were practiced like mass. Even nature bent to them. The marshes and rivers around the city worked as moats, as if the earth itself had joined the defense. And yet something changed. By the 15th century, the empire that had once rivaled Rome was a withering stem. The population shrank, the army thinned, and suddenly whole sections of wall, once bustling with soldiers, stood empty. We think of crumbling stone as decay. But these walls didn't crumble. They were breached. That's something else entirely. Mehmed II didn't just rely on brute force. He brought something new. Gunpowder, cannons. Not the handheld toys of earlier wars, but monsters. One cannon cast by a Hungarian named Urban took weeks just to move. It fired stones the size of a grown man. Against such power, even walls that had stood for centuries could not stand forever. Still, many historians note that these same walls had withstood earlier bombardments. Smaller perhaps, but gunpowder was not new to the world. So why now, a closer look at contemporary accounts reveals something unsettling. There are reports fleeting disputed of internal rot. Sappers bribed, watchmen asleep, gates left suspiciously unattended. These whispers suggest it wasn't the cannon that shattered the wall. It was what moved inside it. Gold has always cracked stone faster than fire ever could. Others point to the possibility that the breaches were exaggerated by chroniclers eager to shape the fall as a dramatic divine reckoning rather than a slow, bureaucratic failure. But even the most skeptical scholars agree somewhere in those last weeks, the unthinkable became routine. Repairs ceased. Morale plummeted. One Genoese captain complained that the outer walls near his post had gaping holes untouched for days. Was it sabotage or simply despair? And there's another angle, perhaps, the most chilling of all. A letter discovered in the archives of Ragusa mentions a conversation between two merchants who weeks before the siege spoke of an opening in the defense that no one will close. No further context, no names, just a line buried in trade correspondence. It might be nothing, or it might be everything. You think back to the final charge. When the walls gave way, it was not with a roar, but a shrug, as if the city had simply let go. And yet not all of the walls failed. The north side held fiercely. Survivors there reported holding their positions until the very end, even pushing back Ottoman attackers repeatedly. If the defenses had truly collapsed entirely, that resistance would be hard to explain. So maybe what failed wasn't the wall. Maybe it was the will behind it. Tonight, as you trace your hand along the weathered stones, still standing in Istanbul, you're not just touching old brick. You're touching a boundary between ages. Not because the wall broke, but because someone somewhere decided it should. It starts with a shadow, not the kind cast by moonlight, but one carved by stories, by the strange certainty that some endings are foretold. Constantinople was a city born of prophecy and burdened by it ever since. Even its founding came with omens. Constantine the Great followed a divine vision, walking the ancient paths of Byzantium until he marked the new capital's boundaries with his spear. When asked where to stop, he replied, "I shall continue until he who leads me stops." That was the beginning. But from then on, everyone seemed more concerned with how it would end.